Easter is a strange one, because when you think about it, essentially we're celebrating a man getting murdered. More than that, we're celebrating a good man getting murdered in a brutal way. Nowadays, of course, most of us celebrate Easter over 3 days, yet I always spend the Friday and Saturday of Easter feeling weird about the fact that these first 2 days represented absolute misery and hopelessness on the very first Easter. When Jesus was crucified, death looked as though it was victorious, and Jesus' followers began to contemplate life not just without him, but without the hope that he was the promised Messiah foretold in the Jewish scriptures. The one who had come to conquer death, defeat sin, and set the captives free. And they must have thought to themselves, surely if this was the man we'd been waiting for, he wouldn't have let death swallow him up. And they'd have surely been forgiven for asking the question, were we wrong about him? Part of me wonders if the darkness and silence of the grave would have provided the perfect conditions for doubt to manifest, develop, and flourish. But Easter isn't a celebration because of how it begins. It's a celebration because of how it ends. And it's a celebration because out of the darkness, hopelessness, and silence of the grave, the way, the truth, and the life, himself, speaks once more. And we learn from the risen Christ that we simply didn't understand what he was doing when he gave himself up on the cross. We didn't understand what he won for us on the cross, what he gained for us on the cross, what he paid for us on the cross. Ultimately, we didn't understand what he gave for us on the cross until after it was already done. You see, Jesus' death on the cross wasn't the end of the story. It wasn't the final nail in the coffin for another religious preacher who died and stayed that way. In many ways, it was just the beginning. Because when Jesus rose up from the grave, defeating sin and death, his followers realized that everything they had seen up to that point was the start of a revolution that would change the world forever and stand the test of time. A revolution characterized by truth, compassion, love, mercy, and justice, led by the only king who has ever been worthy of that title, King Jesus. The king who serves, the king who restores, the king who heals, the king who loves, the king who leads, the king who drives out fear. The king of an upside-down kingdom that is so different from anything we've ever seen before that the world could never understand it, let alone stop it. The king has risen.
You told her who you are. And so it's time.
Let's go.
Yes! Throw me like a stone in the water, watch the mud rise up. Dress me like a lamb for the slaughter, pour me in your cup.